Hey guys, I'm Hoa Pham. That's John Munez, and we're to the shed. And tonight we have a special guest today, Dave Applegate, mobile developer of UndieRush, and also a company of his own. He does his games. I think you do for charity, right? Like half charity. Yeah.
So 50% of our profits. So 50% of our profits go to charity.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like, what started you? Like, why do charity?
So I wish I had like really good intentions in the beginning, but pretty much like I was reading a bunch of articles about mobile game development, and some of them threw up some like just monstrous numbers, like from ad revenue. And you look at the game and I go like, that's something technically is something that I could manage or build myself. And then I was reading a few books, one of which was Give and Take by Adam Grant, and kind of his like main premise was like the more you give, like the better, your life kind of is. And I didn't really connect the dots at first, but I started talking with a lot of like mobile game developers, and everybody was just talking about the pain from like promoting the games. It was a lot of people make good games, they just didn't make games people ended up downloading and playing. And so that idea kind of, merged at that point where I was like, maybe if I give a bunch of money to charity, it would make the company much more marketable in like a positive way where like we still are sustainable, but we also can, do some good in the world.
The more you give, the more you get. That's a Beatles line.
Yeah. Yep. And
so what kind of charities are getting better because of your mobile games?
So since we haven't released our first game yet, there hasn't been any like true charity donation. I donate myself a little bit, and I've been kind of putting it under the company.
Do you have anything in line? Who you want to work with?
So I want to kind of pick things that are with short-term benefit, but still like long-term gain, but aren't political. So like Engineers Without Borders, or something like that, where like they build like a bridge for people in an area, that like need that bridge, where where the money's going. You could see it, it's like, I gave $1,000 and that $1,000 went to ABC, not, the marketing or some, charity executives, Rolls Royce. So we have a website, and it kind of like we listed a lot of the charities that we vetted and we thought would be, good on there.
But so UndieRun is the very first game you guys plan on releasing.
Correct.
And UndieRun.
UndieRush, yeah.
UndieRush.
It was UndieRun for a little while.
I think
Yeah.
the first time, I don't remember. I know there was an UndieRun somewhere, but yeah, UndieRush. I played it maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's still in development.
Yeah.
You've told me it's changed a lot. My first time I played UndieRush, my first thought is, how'd they come up with this game? Personal experience, or did you like what gave you this idea? And it's a really intelligent and funny idea. That's why I was just amazed with.
Thank you. We actually what we did is we created like note cards, and on note card 1 was like a theme, so it would be like water ballooning as a kid.
Nice.
Because I used to love throwing water balloons at cars and doing other mischievous things.
Right.
And then ideas that would also market well. So like fun ideas like people would be kind of controversial. And then on the other deck of cards we had like game mechanics for mobile games. So like tap to move, like swipe in like a slingshot type of fashion. And then we would say, like if the card was like hot lava, and then we turn over a card and it would say, swipe, we'd have to try to model like 20 games that would do that. And we went through, and I had journals upon journals of just like different ideas. And then we prototyped a few of them, like really, really quick and dirty. And UndieRush, originally it wasn't UndieRush. It was, just kind of like, hey, this was there were 3 or 4 viral ideas we thought worked to it, but the mechanic we thought was fun. And then we worked on the mechanic a lot, and then I was probably still Prison Break, to be honest, when you guys first started playing it.
Maybe.
And that was the working title as we before the theme of the game started to kind of evolve. And then since we do a ton of testing with real people on the internet, people started to kind of complain about the theme a little bit, and that's when we started to develop like a more cohesive theme.
Awesome. So you guys are developing and at the same time redeveloping while people are telling you, like, we don't like this about the game, we do like this. I remember the first time I played it being actually Prison Break, with the drones flying over, the police cars with lights. So what were people saying that made you change your mind?
So we do 80-hour work sprints, kind of, so roughly like 2 weeks. And every time we're done with that, we do a full release, and we have at least like probably 20 to 30 people play it. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's like 60, 70, just depends on kind of some, like we'll go to an event like this. Yeah. Downstairs is like a, kind of a game jam type of thingy. And then we'll just get tons and tons of feedback, and people say, I hate the controls, or I hate, this doesn't make any sense. Why is the title this? And then you prioritize, what are the things people are most kind of angry about, so to speak, and that's what really drives the next, 80 hours worth of development.
And that's a perfect segue where there's a lot of indie developers who watch this who are trying to start making a game, and they get feedback, right? How do you choose which feedback to incorporate back into your game and which not to follow?
Like, how do you spam out the spam?
Yeah. I mean, we don't get it's not as much spam as you think it is. You calibrate, because if you get 30 people doing it, like there'll be some like really common themes, so like the controls suck. Right. We hate the way the controls are, and then you have to work on those controls the next time, where we really kind of, I think a lot of people struggle is they focus too much on kind of what they want to do, as opposed to like where the game is really, really lacking, and when we release that frequency, we're forced to kind of constantly reality check ourselves and like make sure the game is what it needs to be.
So now that you've gone through all that process, do you feel that the game is where it needs to be?
It's getting a lot closer. One of our favorite questions to ask is, if you were to compare this to your current favorite mobile game, how would you rate us on a scale of 1 to 10? And we're averaging about a 7 out of 10 now, which is pretty good. I think we've got some big issues when it comes to like repeat play, so now we're getting like really good first impressions where people go like, hey, this is so much fun, I love this, but when we watch them, they don't play past the 20, 30 minutes that we're kind of like enticing them to play. And so we're working on that a lot, free gifts in game and missions and achievements and a lot more characters and settings to unlock so that it gets stays kind of novel, which is fun because that's kind of like one of the cooler parts of the game, as opposed to just grinding out a bunch of issues with, the tap responsiveness isn't right.
How many guys do you have working on UndieRush?
So it's myself, we have a main programmer, and then we have kind of a few part-time artists. Right now it's just kind of one artist, because a few of them have kind of fallen off the cracks. And then we've got probably 3 or 4 part-time marketers that are kind of working on helping us with the marketing of the game as well.
Super important marketing, like we were talking about earlier. Probably the hardest thing to do when making a game, right? Especially because, I mean, it's just like anything else. You get into being a cook because you love to cook. You get into being a game developer or an artist. But marketing has to do with everything. What do you suggest for people out there going through what you're going through? What kind of marketing would you suggest works the best? What have you seen gives you, I guess, the best clicks back?
Yeah. So I'm more of a marketer by nature than I am like a game developer. I think you have to start really, really early. And if you kind of pair your customer development with your product development, a lot of the marketing decisions kind of show their hands. So like, to use an example, if you're making mobile games and you talk with the people that are playing mobile games, they'll tell you where they find out about mobile games. Yeah. 98% of them download them by either it being on the top charts and them just browsing that, or their friend telling them about the game. Right. So if you take those two things in mind, one, how do you get to the top charts? That's a question that you could try to solve. And 2, how do you get people to talk about your game more? And that's a question you could solve too. So we'll have characters and settings that we think are kind of controversial and fun, because you're going to talk about that a lot more than you would, two dots that are hopping across the screen. If you're Trump running from the FBI, that like, and if you do 100 of those things, if you're Ajit Pai or whatever the dude who everybody hates because of the net neutrality thing, like you create some really funny scenarios, when it comes to that stuff. And we have just tons and tons of stuff like that. And then on the converse side, there are people that break the top charts, so it's not like it's a secret, like you just need to find people that do that, ask them, what do you do? And you start to get some good feedback in terms of, hey, I think I need to do A, B, C, D to, crack the top charts.
I love that about your game, that you have these extra, you have your main character basically, and then you have Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and Bob Ross. Just a lot. Can you tell
Technically not those guys, but people that look very, very close to those people. Yeah.
Right. What's the prompt in the South Park episodes at the beginning? That's the prompt. You just got to take that and put it right on yours. Can you tell us a little bit more about your character choice? Why'd you decide to go with that type of art?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think it kind of naturally evolved. We originally thought of doing first it was super blocky because it's just proof of concept. That was the easiest, thing to make that. And then we thought of doing low poly. That was just, we thought, way too hard after we did some like really introductory tests. And then we kind of stumbled across some good voxel artists. And voxel's kind of the direction we ended up going. To be honest, if I was to do things again, I'm not sure if I would choose voxel as my art style because it's really niche in terms of the voxel artists that are out there. And it's like with pixel art, you get like a billion people that are like talented pixel artists, but like high quality voxel artists are a lot, harder to find.
Oh, wait, so for your voxel artists, did you outsource? And like,
yeah, so I find most people on like Reddit or Twitter. So like if, with voxel, Reddit did not work real well. Neither did like any of the other methods, like, kind of more traditional job posting boards, whether it's Unity forums, although they took the for hire section out. But Twitter worked really well. You just would search hashtag voxel and just start to like follow the right people and then just send them direct messages and say, hey, are you looking for work? And a lot of them didn't bite, but all you need is one or two good guys, and you're jamming.
Cool. How's your experience with outsourcing?
So from my main company, I run an e-commerce store, and I have a whole plethora of experience outsourcing. It's really hard to get good at. You have to learn how to. The thing I recommend first is getting really small deliverables. Okay. So like, hey, we're gonna do one voxel character. Agree on a price, one voxel character. And if it doesn't work, we just part ways. And it's almost good to get, especially when you're starting out, test it with a few people. Because otherwise you fall in love with the first one, you go, this is great. Yeah. But if you get, 20 of those, you start to go like, hey, you calibrate it. This guy's really good, this dude's, not so good. And then naturally you end up with a kind of a strong team.
Very nice. If you were to do this over again, this whole process, what do you think you would have changed?
We've been in development for probably almost a year now. Granted, our main developer is part-time, so he's probably logging like 15, 20 hours a week. But I might have tried to scope even smaller, and release even quicker. In the perfect world, we would have had about a 3-month release cycle. It's really hard when you're taking on a project to figure out exactly how long it's going to take. But I think in hindsight, I could have picked something that would have been even easier to do. We could have gotten a quicker win and proved the concept, a lot faster.
Do you have a release date now?
Kind of whenever it's done is a short answer. I keep on pushing it. At the very, very, very latest, we're probably looking at like 6-1, 7-1. More realistically, I would expect like 5-1 or 4-1. We just have we've already scoped the last parts of the game. So it's that, and then we've got to work on our first impression design a lot. Like what characters do you unlock in what order, and all that pacing, because we really want to make sure that when that person is downloading the game off of the Reddit AMA, they are laughing and having fun for the first 10 minutes, and it's not like they play for a second and go, screw this thing, and move on. Because, the real money, we're using an ad model as kind of our revenue stream. And you don't make any money unless you get a ton of downloads and a lot of play.
Yeah. Where can everybody go to check out what you're doing?
That's a good question. Our website, RAR for a reason. We don't have a lot of involving the game on there yet, but that would be a good place. We also are subreddit, although it's private. You can just ask to join, and I'll go ahead and invite you. And that's where we run our entire beta, which is just reddit.com/r/rar for a reason. So those are probably
about your company name, like RAR for a reason. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. To be honest with you, it's probably not my favorite name. If I was to do it over again, I probably would change it. But we said, what would be the most viral business logo and stuff can we start with, And it was for Reddit really, because we're going to really rely on Reddit as part of our push. So what is the Reddit market like too? And dinosaurs, astronauts, things like that, kind of, dogs really kind of kept up. So there was we had Cone of Shame games, which I really liked that one. Because I think dogs with cones of shames are so funny, Really but
funny,
yeah, but
so it's a little messed up, but it's not bad because it's for their own protection. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Agreed.
Even your friend with a cone on is hilarious.
So then we're gonna do dinosaur with the cone, but we couldn't really draw those really well. We tried a few things, it didn't look right. It looked like a martini glass hanging off his neck. And so we just kind of kept on going back and forth. And one of the things we struggled with Cone of Shame games was it was just so unrelated to the fact we give money to charity. And so RAR, we kind of like that name a lot. And then we just thought of 1,000 things that could try to make it, sound like it could be even slightly related to charity. It was RAR for Change for a long time, but that we really didn't like. And then it kind of just slowly evolved. I like our logo a lot. I think, we get really, really positive feedback on that whenever we do tests, especially girls, oh, the dinosaur is so cute.
We go to a lot of talks. And everybody always talks about that, bringing in girls to, girls are actually the biggest mobile gamers. So I think having a logo that is attractive to women is a really intelligent move. Yeah. So I think that's all the time we have now.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. So what do you want to say to, anyone that's want to play your game or anyone starting to make games?
Just shout out to your long lost love or
I've got a girlfriend, so that would be probably the worst move I could do. Katie, that's my girlfriend. I love you. But I really don't have any, wisdom. If you want to do something, just go out there and try to do it,
Yeah. Can you just give them one more shout out to where they can check out your game? The game is actually incredibly fun. Incredibly, all the time and effort you guys have put into it, it totally shows. And actually, when you only tell me that you've been working on it for a year, I'm shocked because it looks like you spent way more time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The thing I'd recommend is just spend a lot of time on Reddit, like just about everybody does, and stay tuned for our AMA, which will happen when we launch the game. And please upvote it and download the game and ask questions. It'd make a world of difference.
Awesome.
So,
Dave, such a pleasure having you.
No
Thank you
worries.
so much for
No
keep
worries.
making great games. We're so excited for this to come out.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll have you back on. We'd love to talk to you,
Thank you.
to hear your response after the release. Yeah.
I think there's I'm really hoping it does well, but I think that with any mobile game, there's a high chance it fails. So at a minimum, I would love to come back here and talk about the horrible failure if it doesn't work out.
I'm sure the conversation's going to go the opposite.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
No
Thank you.
worries.
Thank you. God, sorry, I was getting blown up. I was trying to silence